The Marlins are on a 2-game win streak, but Craig Mish is in the house. We are going back 2 days, digging his meeting with Don Mattingly. Let's unpack it all on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins podcast with me, Peter Pratt. Of course, don't forget to follow me, guys, on Twitter at Miami Marlins_UK. Welcome to the Thursday edition. And as I've teased out, the GOAT is in the house. Craig, how you doing?
Doing well, Peter. It's great to be with you. Nice production value here. Great to be seeing you. We can do this on video and audio too. It's awesome to be with you as always. Thank you for having me.
100% same. Likewise, Craig. It felt like we had to do this episode, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join me. You know, let's go back to Tuesday. For me, it was one of the wildest days I can remember, actually, as a Marlins fan, and that's only 6 years long. So let's not, it hasn't been the whole entire time of the franchise, but in the 6 years I've covered the team and followed the team, it felt like one of the wildest days. First indication for me that something was off. Craig Mish was in the ballpark for Marlins Nationals on a rainy Tuesday. I thought something's up here.
Your intuition was correct.
Yeah.
Very, very good intuition there. It's true. Yeah, I've talked about this a lot. It's much harder for me to go. I've actually been to a lot of games this season, but a lot of them have been as a fan. I've taken my son. It's very hard for me to go now without him going because he's like,
he's a fan as well.
Can I go? I mean, I've been to a lot of games. I'm just sitting in the stands. Probably the most fan games I've been to in a first half in a long time. He just loves to go. He's a huge Marlins fan. And so that's the dynamic there. But you're right. So that day, I was not planning to go at all. And then the first thing that happened is that, we actually finally got a game in last night. But my son, he made the Little League All-Star team, and we're playing these tournaments all around South Florida, in Miami Lakes and Cooper City and Hollywood, Dade, and Broward. And we've been just rained out, Peter, like you would not believe here.
I've seen.
It's so crazy. I think 6 times in a row before we finally played last night. So on Tuesday, we got an early word that we were rained out. And then all of a sudden, I'm not going to get into too many details, but I just get a text like, hey, this may be, there may be something, maybe the day you want to come if you can. So I was like, all right. It wasn't planning on it. You're right, Peter. It was the Nationals. I did go to the Giants game on Saturday and thought, if I'm going to go to any game, it would be Thursday. Strasburg is going to pitch and the Marlins are going to win the first 2 games. I pretty much, Sandy on Wednesday and then Tuesday, that guy Adon, they're going to, this guy's ERA is 10 and he's 1-9. Marlins are going to win the first 2. So, so I called my wife. I was like, listen, I think I got to go. I don't know what's going on. And then as I'm going down there from Broward, it takes me about 30 minutes, I'm getting blown up a little. Like, hey, like something's happening. This is not normal. There's a meeting. Not a big deal. I'm going back and forth. Not a big deal. They have meetings all the time. They're probably rah-rah meeting, 30 minutes. We're going to play better. It happens all the time, Peter. And so there's no big deal. Then it becomes 60 minutes. Then I'm there, And, at this point, what I normally would do is I would go on to the field, but I was like, no way, I'm going to go to the clubhouse, right? See what's happening. I'm sharp like that. So, I walk all the way to the clubhouse. I see the doors are closed in the clubhouse. And my understanding is nobody is, I'm getting texts, still nobody's here, whatever. Then I see Kim leave the clubhouse after probably about an hour. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is probably coming to an end. So then I go onto the field. It still went like another half hour. And then finally, Don Mattingly came out at that point. So that's kind of that was the first part of, taking you behind the scenes as to what was going on there.
For sure. We're going to talk about Don shortly. But what was Kim's demeanor? Obviously, you passed her coming out of the clubhouse. Did she say anything?
No, it was just, I just saw her leaving. Yeah. I can't say that there was any, I wouldn't say that there was anything to it. I didn't try to approach her or anything like that. I just saw her leave. And so that was my indication that if she's leaving, this thing is probably coming to an end.
But it carried on, I guess, at least another 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
And, Kim was there. I think that's another important factor, is the fact that, Kim was there in the room too, Donnie, the coaches, the players. So it was full war room, we'll describe it as, for sure.
Yeah.
Then Donnie's on the field doing the pregame presser. I saw clips and wow. I've not seen, having been on many pressers with Donnie, virtually, obviously, not in person, but virtually, that was a very different Don Mattingly to what I've ever seen before. What was your reaction to this whole, the situation in general, his demeanor, but also there was some key bits that he came out with that I thought were really interesting. The team's going to come out flat was one kind of real key buzz thing.
Yeah.
What was your take on this whole situation?
Yeah, that comment was surprising. That was the one that it's like, being on social media is something that I do as far as the Marlins, predominantly when you really think about it. I mean, people, think that I'm on there 24/7. I'm not. A lot of it does have to do with what I do for work. It's just kind of my thing. But that was the line that he gave that I was like, okay, as soon as this is over, I'm tweeting that out. As soon as this is over, that's not something that you hear every day. Hey, we may not be great at the beginning of the game, but like, whoa, like that was surprising.
Yeah.
They're downplaying it now, of course, this meeting, but make no mistake about it. It was very abnormal to have something like that happen. The length, having a 90-minute, having your manager come out and saying he doesn't know if it was resolved. Now that I kind of have a little bit of a better understanding of this, I think I feel better. I still don't feel great about the whole thing, but I feel better about Donnie, I think, than I did probably there, just because it was just so stunning to hear these words coming out of him. But in the end, he was kind of forced. He was kind of forced to do it, and he was really put in a very awkward position to where it had to happen. I think he was right. I think he was very transparent in that spot, Pete, and he's always transparent. But he defends his guys. Like, so sometimes a guy will be like 0 for 70 and he'll be like, well, we really love it the way he's going right now. Like, you hear that. He's a player's manager.
Absolutely.
So to hear him like that was a little stunning. It did feel like he was a little defeated hearing that too. Since then, he's kind of whipped it back around and, now I'm feeling good and I slept well last night. But in that moment, odd.
Absolutely. I took it was that was the key phrase that came out of it that everyone reacted to, like, holy shit, Don's expecting the team to lose this game now off the back of this meeting.
My phone at that moment was across the board. Hey, you must have been wrong with what you may want to go back and fix what you just said, that he thought the team was going to come out flat. Didn't you mean that not come out? I'm like, no, that is what he said. No way, it can't be. I'm like, go look at the video. That's exactly what he said, word for word.
Wild.
I'm not making it up. I wanted to make sure I got that one right.
Yeah, for sure. And, by all accounts as well, this was Donnie's meeting too, right? And I think that's the way things have worked out. Donnie called this session and did, I guess, kind of chaired it in many ways, handed over the guys. The feeling is, and from what I've read and, in the subsequent days is, I guess there was some division happening, maybe behind the scenes, behind players' backs. And Donnie said, listen, enough of this. We need to speak about this as a group. Is that accurate?
Yep. Yes.
So there you go. Donnie's session.
You gotta push me harder to get more. Gotta push me a little bit harder to get more. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely accurate.
Okay. So this let's before we get into the actual session itself, you've got Donnie calling this session. He comes out feeling defeated after it too. So this is the other part as well. So Donnie feels the team are going to come out flat. Yeah. He feels that it wasn't even a resolution, perhaps, was also kind of one of the key statements too. So Donnie, didn't feel like it went, I don't know, did he feel like it went successfully? I don't know.
No, I don't think that he did, because of the way that the players were all reacting in the room for as long as they did. I think that and staff and whoever was in there, I think that was the cusp of it. And I think, I mean, listen, I was not there, so I don't know. So I think that my caveat for all of this is that you have to understand I was not there, and go off your own opinion of this stuff, because we're never going to know. It was a player's private meeting. I could only go off things, bits and pieces that I've heard, but it was like a meeting of deterioration. It almost seemed like, from my sort of understanding, where it's like there's some purpose at the beginning where even at the beginning it may not have made a ton of sense to have it, but okay, let's air our grievances, as so to speak. And then it just devolves into this and that, and you this and you and Mel, and but this is not right, and things that just like, after an hour, you're just like, this is like needs to end. Like this is like, silly talk here. And then it just keeps going and going, and players are speaking, and we've all, what's funny is I think we've all been part of meetings that we're just kind of like, when is this going to end? And this needs to be over. And so you have to kind of gauge that with some of the content of it. And again, I don't have all the content of it, so it's hard for me to say how much of it was necessary or not. I think you've seen some public comments on those as well. But my estimation, and again, speaking to a lot and taking a lot, had a headache yesterday, bad, speaking to a lot of people, taking the time to research this, it did seem like it got a little silly. It did seem like it went a little too far.
Okay. So here we go. Is the clubhouse now broken? Is it now at a state where it's broken? And also, just as a follow-up to, if you were in the room, I know you said you weren't, and you've spent a lot of time digging into this. If you were in the room, who would you have seen being most vocal? And what were the key topics that likely would have been called up?
Okay. So give me the first one again. Let me answer it in the correct order.
Is the clubhouse broken now?
Is the clubhouse broken? I think the clubhouse is not broken. I definitely think that it is fractured.
Okay.
I do. I think it is fractured. I think that there's uncomfortability among players, among just sort of different people, different relationships. Probably not different than any other clubhouse in terms of that. But when you have something like this happen, I think it dives it a little more.
Yeah.
And I think, by the way, outcomes of the last 2 days notwithstanding, I do not think, anybody who says to me, and they could win 10 in a row, Pete, but anybody who says that meeting has led to anything, win or, I mean, you're ridiculous. You have no idea what you're talking about. That. And even Donnies said that. It had nothing to do with wins and losses. So if you want to play that narrative, you can do it. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. So is there a division? Can they win with all this happening? Yeah, I don't think that this will just separate them. No, I don't think so. But I think there's a distinct fracture that has happened here that now has to mend over a period of time, which is why I think Donnie said that he didn't know if it was going to be resolved. And then the second question you said, as far as the topics, is that right?
Yeah. Who's going to be, if you were sat in the room, who's most vocal? Who's doing a lot of speaking, and what topics?
I can't. I mean, Miguel Rojas would have been the one that was most vocal. Yeah. Miguel Rojas would, in my opinion, Rojas would have been the one that was most vocal. I mean, and to a degree, I kind of feel like, in my opinion, that this was his meeting.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like that from the things that I have heard. I could be wrong. That is my estimation. Is that he in particular, and maybe the veterans too. I don't know exactly who. But it's my opinion that the veteran leadership of the team had issues. Okay. And that's why this was called.
What are those issues that Miggy's calling out? If it's Miggy's session, what's he trying to address in that room with all the guys there? Where are the pain points that Miggy's feeling that he needs to call this session?
Being a professional on and off the field. I think that is definitely part of it. And so there's probably some validity to that as far as different personalities and players that are on the team. But my estimation is it may have went too far. I think it may have went too far. I think that in my opinion, sort of hearing this out a little bit is that that maybe this was something that needed to be handled amongst individuals and not brought 30 people in. Maybe that's my guess. I think that as a team, when you're losing, and you're getting blasted and you have a team meeting, everyone needs to be in there, and you kick us out, and that's what you do. And then you chop it up. Here's why we're losing. This is what's happening. But this was not that. This was just like, sort of bizarre, again, denigration of a meeting after 30 minutes and 40 minutes and 50 minutes. And I can't, I don't know all the details of it, so I'm very hesitant to give things that I'm not 100% sure of. But it did not seem, it seemed to me that if professionalism is going to be questioned by one player about another player, and it doesn't apply to all of the players, why is that aired out in front of the whole clubhouse? Can't that have something to be done separately? And I don't know the answer to that, because I've never had one of these meetings, and I've never run a major league clubhouse. But that's the sense that I am getting, is that this maybe should have just been a 1-on-1 thing, or a 1-on-2 thing, or a 2-on-3 thing. Yeah. But instead, it was everybody sitting in there for an hour and a half.
Wow. A couple of thoughts that come to my mind off the back of this is, what does it mean for Miggy Rowe? He's been El Capitan for many years in this clubhouse. It's been his clubhouse. And if all of a sudden this has gone wrong, which maybe it has, maybe it went too far, how does that impact maybe Miggy right now in terms of the clubhouse, the future around with the Marlins? Maybe some question marks there.
It is a great question, and I don't know the answer to it. I had a piece in the Miami Herald, and I asked to speak to Miggy about it, and I did, and it was extremely uncomfortable for me. Maybe one of my least favorite conversations that I've had covering the team, which is really unfortunate. I respect the player a lot. I respect the person a lot. I respect Miguel a ton. He's been incredible to me, to my son. He's treated me in a first-class manner for the entire time that he's here. But I can't put myself in his shoes with what's going on with him this year. I don't know. I can't put myself in the shoes of all the other players and staff that are sitting in there listening, because I can't. But I can only report on what I know and what I'm hearing. And the overwhelming feeling is that there's a problem there with this. There is a problem there with this. So what does it mean for his future with the club? I mean, I certainly hope that on the field that he can have a great season. I'm not rooting against him by any means. It never would be the case. But I can't say right now that all the players are in love with each other in the clubhouse. I don't think that is the case. And listen, I hope nothing for the best for him. Yeah. But without going, I don't want to make. See, the thing is, Pete, is that I don't want to make myself the story. Okay, that's never the way that I've been. I hope that anybody listening to this or watching this knows that's not what I'm about. I don't want to insert myself in. I don't want to get into conversations that I've had, because then it makes it seem like it's all about me. It is not. The work that I do is to cover the team, to give everybody the best ideas and the best information as far as I can give you. But I just don't know how far I can go with this, because it was an extremely uncomfortable conversation that I had with him. And, I used what I could from that to be accurate in the column that we did with the Herald. And hopefully I would say he's been he's been an absolute pro for many years here. He had to endure a lot of losing. He wanted to be here. He signed an extension to be here, and he wanted to see winning. I don't know that he's going to be here when the team is winning.
Yeah. Big. There's a guy who will be here for sure, and a guy that I know you spoke to on the day as well, because you tweeted out about it. Sandy Alcantara came out and I think faced the media too. Whether it was one-on-one, I don't know. But, Sandy it's becoming his team now. It's, Sandy is a beacon for the Marlins. He's absolutely lighting it up out there. But, how did Sandy handle things? How was he when you got to speak to him on Tuesday, I believe? And, what was his take on this whole situation?
Yeah, and part of all of this stems from, again, in my opinion, as a reporter who I feel like I've done this long enough to have a pulse, is that when you have a meeting like this, in my opinion, you nip it in the bud immediately from a player's perspective after Donnie, and then you're just done and you don't talk about it again. You know, that's this is it, and we're gonna go play. Don't bother asking because we ain't gonna be talking about it. It's usually the way it works, at least from my experience, and not all of them, but most of them. So no, you know, there was no availability, Pete. You know, no player availability at the. This is not on the staff of the Marlins. They just no play. It was like there was just no one there. They were all in the clubhouse, and then there was a handful of guys that were on the field throwing, mostly the pitchers. So Sandy was there, and I'm like, I'm not leaving here without speaking to someone on the team, like, or I'm not with the game. I stayed for most of the game, but I'm not gonna let this just go. Like, this does not feel right. So thankfully, you know, I've known Sandy for a long time, and thankfully he was there, and I wanted to speak to him, and I, you know, told a member of the Marlins staff, this is what I'm going to do. I would like to do this. They were, you know, certainly helpful. They were helpful, by the way, an hour before that, you know, trying to help, you know, get guys to talk or whatever. But Sandy came over and basically was just shot straight from the hip, said essentially, you know, not everybody's going to get along in a clubhouse. There's going to be differences. You know, he's seen things like this before, and he didn't want to really give up too many details from that. So that was kind of where it is, but he handled himself like a pro, like anybody would. And then it was over, and then we just, you know, talked about family and talked about, you know, my son playing in All-Stars and him maybe going to the All-Star game, and he's, you know, how thankful he would be to get that opportunity, and we're just chopping it up like we always do, like very comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a pro is right. Another interesting tweet that did come out, though, that got a few people talking as well. Jazz Chisholm put out there pretty much immediately. It felt like the doors opened. And Jazz Chisholm straight on Twitter, AirPods Jazz or AirPods Ninja, I think it was the tweet from Jazz.
Yep.
Very intriguing tweet. What was your take on that one?
Look, I don't know. I mean, that's reading too far into it. So I would only be guessing at that point. But Jazz does wear AirPods on the field. I've seen him take, you know, a bunting practice in spring training with Juan Pierre. It was kind of funny. I noticed that. I think I pointed that out to my son. Listen, I cannot speak for Jazz. Jazz by no means is a perfect player. Okay, that is definitely not the case. But at the same time, he is arguably your most popular player. He is one of your two top offensive performers on the team. And not everybody is cut from the same cloth. And I think we all would agree at this point, gotta let some of this stuff go. Gotta let him be himself, right? Like, not the way that I grew up and not the way that I remember, you know, baseball with all this stuff, but it's a new day, you know?
Yep.
And maybe if he's batting 150, maybe it is a different story at that point. But at this point, Pete, isn't it just about? I know it sucks to say, but it's like performance sort of dictates. Gotta be careful there. Dictates, you know, how you handle people. That's all. I think that's always the way that it's been in sports. It's like, you know, sometimes there's drama, but yeah, you know, this guy's, you know what somebody said to me. A general manager said this to me, is that the problem, like they use this. I'm never going to out the name. The problem with dating, Pete, the problem with dating the really hot girl is because there's going to be some drama, and there's always going to be some trouble with that, because, you know, they're the hot. And you know, and Jazz is hot, and that's kind of, but you deal with it, right? But you deal with it because it's like, oh, Jazz is
it's
hot.
worth it. It's worth it.
It is worth it. So
there's a soundbite to be had there somewhere, Craig. I'm pretty sure that there's, you know, Jazz is hot. You know.
Yeah. So general manager said that to me. Manager said that.
Love it. We only have 1 minute left, and so we'll wrap things up real short. But one thing I didn't ask at the time, and I should have done, but it's, you know, it's just now's a good time. Mickey Rowe, he's calling this out, professionalism.
Yep.
What does that actually mean? What is there anything specific that Mickey's seeing that he's not enjoying and not liking seeing? Because that's broad. It's a broad term, but
yeah, it doesn't seem to be anything as pertain to like specific rules. It doesn't sound like that. It almost, I would be guessing. and I'm not going to go further on this one, by the way. But I will say this: it almost feels to me, Peter, that when Derek Jeter took over, there was sort of like this, sort of way we're going to play and way we're going to do things, and we're going to have accountability, and we're going to lose a million games, but we're going to do it in a way that's going to make you proud, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, is that Derek sort of empowered Miguel Rojas, the shortstop of the team and the team leader and the great attitude, family guy, fantastic guy, no question. Sort of empowered him to, kind of be the guy to make sure that that is going on within the clubhouse. And Derek is gone, and it just kind of feels like with that sort of, other players have now come on the team and have different personalities. By the way, and other players are playing very well too. Miggy was such a star in that 2020 season, and then the postseason, like he was such a star, and that's changed, and a lot has changed.
Yeah,
and I don't know that it is the same as what it was. So to get into the details, we did talk about it a little bit on the phone. Some of it I could say, I think some of, being on time and attending meetings, along those lines. And I think that those are all pretty standard things. But again, some other rumors and some other are out there about things that really don't make a ton of sense there. I did not hear those things from Miguel when we talked. So, I can only tell you what he told me, but again, along those lines, being on time, being a professional, but I'm not sure that there weren't a lot of other things that were discussed there too in the meeting, but I wasn't there to hear those, only, hearing rumors.
Absolutely. I saw a few of those knocking around yesterday on Twitter myself, talking about dress code, etc. I mean, I think that's kind of where you're getting to with this, where you're alluding to, where the meeting started maybe with an agenda in mind, and then it starts to snowball into, you've got bickering going on about what a guy's turning up in the clubhouse wearing and whatever it might be. I don't know. And so it kind of spirals out of control a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a meeting and it starts off with a clear agenda as to what we're going to do, and then all of a sudden it feels like you're in the 5th grade.
Yeah,
like after an hour, it's kind of like, what are we doing here? So I don't know. I think, Pete, in the end, it's listen, maybe they'll win a bunch of games now and they'll go to Houston and they'll play well. And they'll start winning games against good teams, which they haven't done. I mean, these things are all possible. I mean, I could see it happening. But I will not be of the camp that says that because they had this team meeting, that they went on this run.
Yeah.
You will not hear that from me. I do not personally believe that this was like a team bonding thing.
No.
Where they all went bowling, Pete, and came out and said, yeah, that was great. I personally don't think so.
No,
but I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love for them to use that. Maybe they'll use me. Maybe they'll say this. I don't ever want to be in that position. But remember the bottom feeder thing? Oh, this Craig Mish writes about us. Maybe that whatever it takes. I'll speak Spanish. All I want them to do is win and make this thing relevant, right? Like we all have the same goal here.
Absolutely.
But you have me on to talk about something that happened that was not on the field. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I know. Absolutely.
And for that, we're all grateful, no doubt. I'm sure everyone will be tuning into this episode, really enjoying it. One final one. It was a great episode you had with Dan Greenlee last week on Swings and Mishes. I thought it was really insightful in many ways. One thing that stood out to me, and I shared this, I think, yesterday as well, or the day before, it was, offense, top 10, top 15, pitching, the same, defense, top 5. Everything sounds right. You go in, and then you said, well, what the bleep? Is what the Marlins fans are thinking. That's what I've been thinking. What is going on with this team? Maybe in parts, this is part of the answer to that. I don't know. There's more to it than that. But, if the locker room has been divided and fractured for some time, it's going to have an impact on the field, you would guess, right?
It could. I don't know. It would be guessing. Like I don't want to say that if they lose, the next 7 out of 8, it was because of the meeting either. Like I really don't feel that way because the talent is what they have. I think that the reason why the record is what it is this season, and in all likelihood, we're probably, this is kind of the team that they have. I mean, we're a lot into this year. I mean, remember the 60-game season would be ending right now, Pete, right?
Yeah.
So it's a third of the year. There's still a long way to go. Could they get to 500 or better? Sure. Anything can happen. It's baseball. Angels have lost 14 in a row, whatever it is. But I get the sense that the runners in scoring position has crushed them. That's really the deal. And by the way, it crushed them again on Wednesday too. Like they ended up winning that game.
Yeah.
But getting guys on, not coming through in those spots, and how do you judge that? Is that because of the player? Is it because of the pressure? New players in new places. Is that part of it too? I mean, all these things, that are humans. You can ask these questions. You just don't know the answer. But it seems like that is when we look back on the season. If this is the trend, we're going to look back and say that they did not come through in pressure situations. And so maybe they have to find new players who step up in big spots. I don't know if that's a stat, but we're going to have to find that. And then clearly the other part of it too is that they didn't address the ninth inning.
No.
And a lot of the ninth inning options that they could have gotten probably ended up failing. I think that's probably true too. But it is Don Mattingly as the manager. He does like to go to one guy. He has done that in the past. Probably should have known who the manager was and said, you know what, even though this probably isn't the way that we should do it, we probably should go by situations. Let's get the closer for the manager that we have, as opposed to for what we think should be done, because he's in the heat of the game, Pete, he's gonna be the one making the decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not gonna get a call from the front office in the eighth. Hey, put in Blyer. There's a lefty. Like, that this is not going to happen. So they probably should have just delivered him a ninth inning guy for 1 year, 3. Ian Kennedy. I don't know. Somebody like that, just to say, okay, he's the guy. And then if it fails, then you go, and start mixing and matching. I'm a big mix and matching guy, by the way, but I don't think Donnie likes doing it.
It doesn't. I mean, the history suggests he doesn't. Percentages that Donnie is the manager at the end of the 22 season, so he sees the full campaign through, in your opinion.
Tough one. That's a tough call. I will say 70%.
Okay.
70%. Yeah.
More likely than not, it is then. I'm higher than that.
I will say I feel very good about it, but my 30% is like left for an Angels type situation where massive losing streak. Like, I don't see it happening right now, but I have to leave a bigger window than I thought a week ago. I have to. I probably would have had it at 80. I have to open up the window a little bit more, just because of, again, some of the things that have happened. Not entirely his fault, by the way.
No. Okay, we are well over time, and so for that, it's time to wrap this one up on Locked On Marlins. Craig Mish, the GOAT, in the house, coming by to give us all of literally the eyeball action from Tuesday. It was a stunning day covering the Marlins, no doubt about it. Craig, thank you so much for joining me on Locked On Marlins today. I'm sure the listeners will absolutely love this one. So, guys, that is us done, wrapped. We're going to be back tomorrow, of course, because it's a Friday, and we have got Astros UK joining me tomorrow on Friday, digging into this Astros Marlins series. So, Craig, thanks so much again. And guys, we'll be back tomorrow.